With Dooku and the Separatist army now helping to track Maul, Ventress could not feed information directly to her clan, so she helped the efforts of Grievous to sabotage the droid army. Though she could not repeatedly fail her missions, whenever she encountered a droid factory, she would discreetly sabotage the manufacturing process, and this delayed the output of droids. On one of these missions to the world of Geonosis, Ventress encountered the Dathomirian Grievous, and she ignited her lightsabers with caution and suspicion, though the cyborg's instincts were to also reach for his lightsabers. As Ventress had been the one to injure him on Scipio, the Night Sister magic imbued by Talzin was preventing him from attacking another of his kind. The Night Sister was shocked to see a Dathomirian pendant, and this was definitive proof that she had not slain Grievous on Scipio, and Talzin was looking to be more active in the Clone War. Now that they were on the same side again, they formed a tenuous alliance to sabotage the factory, and Grievous was able to take and modify yet more droids, but the decreased performance of the droids and their production was spotted by one commander. Admiral Trench of the Harch species had been locked in a battle with his old foe Admiral Yularen when he noticed a small group of his B-1 battle droids were not carrying out his orders. When he examined the head of the droid, the programming had been altered to reverse its direction of travel, and this either led to firing at other droids or being easily picked off by opposing clone troopers. Trench was quick to contact Dooku, and the Sith ordered for an immediate inquest, and they soon discovered that this malfunction had leaked into almost all of their factories, which was a catastrophic disaster for their war effort. Dooku wanted to examine the damage for himself, and from his castle in Sereno, he took off from his landing zone in his solar sailor, unaware that he was being watched. To complete his mission and get a lock of hair for Talzin's ritual, Maul had gone to the most logical location for Dooku's hair, and when Dooku finally left his castle, the Zabrak was able to obtain Dooku's hair from his pillow. Then returning to his ship docked out of view, he told Talzin of his success. The clan leader told Maul that this was merely a backup to their real plan, and ordered for the real plan to be initiated, so it was Grievous who ordered for his galaxy-wide droid army to attack. In Dooku's solar sailor, the FA-4 pilot droid clicked into a bolt upright posture, and instead of maintaining the ship's path, it violently tilted downwards, whilst unleashing a hidden blaster pistol, and fired shots towards Dooku. The Sith was taken by surprise, and though he used the Force to deflect the shots with his hands, he couldn't prevent the ship from descending back towards the surface of Sereno, and he only partially cushioned the landing with the Force. When the dust settled, Dooku blasted his way out of his ship, and as he found the scattered remains of his pilot droid several meters away, he heard a group of clicks around him. The assortment of droids he used to defend his castle had switched their allegiance to face him, and reaching for his curved-hilted lightsaber, he saw his hilt had shattered in the crash. So as the droids moved and fired towards him, he unleashed his most potent lightning attack, fueled by the pain of his sustained injuries. As the droids all scattered into the distance, Dooku limped away from his castle to a hangar with Nantex-class starfighters, but he was stopped in his tracks by a red blade. Maul had waited for the droid betrayal, and when he saw Dooku crawling towards him, he took an opportunity he could not resist. Raising the Sith into the air, he taunted Dooku for not being truly imbued with darkness, and just to tool Insidious's machine, then pulling him towards his lightsaber, he impaled the Separatist leader. Across the galaxy, more and more droids started to turn against their masters, and the Separatist army was beginning to collapse as the Republic were rapidly sweeping across planets. In the Chancellor's office, Palpatine was concerned for the first time in his reign, and having sensed the death of Dooku in the Force, he activated the hologram of Grievous Mark II. The cyborg bowed to the foot of his master and dispatched him to track down Maul, while Sidious changed the communication code to find his clone commanders. Although much earlier than he'd intended, Sidious knew that this was the perfect time to execute Order 66. As the Jedi and the Republic were completing their victories, many of the Jedi across the galaxy were taken by surprise, with over 90% of the Order wiped out in moments, so it was up to the High Council and those of the Temple to save the fate of the Jedi. After witnessing the collapse of the droid army, Yoda contemplated if the clone army were similarly built machines, and now that reality had arrived. The Grand Master issued orders to secure the perimeter and to guide the younglings to safety through the temple hangar, whilst he looked for Chancellor Palpatine. After entering into the chaos of the Senate office building, Yoda dispatched any of the Coruscant guard that happened to be in his way, but expecting to see the Chancellor in his office, he is met by a completely empty area. Yoda is suspicious that the office was devoid of a fight, and even previous recordings on the holoprojector were erased, but as he was about to order a search for Palpatine, the holoprojector flickered into life. Anakin Skywalker, who had been aboard his Venator-class Star Destroyer with Ahsoka Tano, had sensed a change in his clones, owing to his close attachments, and had even managed to save the majority of the 501st Legion. Having confirmed the safety of Obi-Wan, he had wanted to see if his friend Palpatine was caught up in the melee, so was shocked to see Grandmaster Yoda. Anakin was shocked to find the Chancellor vanished, and he demanded for him to be found by the surviving Jedi, but having just witnessed the massacre of his order, he now decided to put the Jedi's priorities ahead of those of the Republic. Anakin was furious at the Jedi's reluctance, and considered this a form of betrayal, so he ordered the chip-free clone troopers to monitor clone chatter on other worlds, but help arrive from a different source. Having survived the chaos within the Senate office building, Padme had used her Royal Naboo security force to find out more, and her old friend Senator Rush Clovis was able to reveal how he had spotted Palpatine discreetly making talks with Lord Dodd before he left the building. Anakin was confused when he heard this news, as there was no reason to be talking to the Neimoidian amidst the chaos, so as he was in the colonies, he changed course for the Neimoidia system. What was a stronghold for the Trade Federation was now a scene of chaos, and the world of Cato Neimoidia was a towering cloud of smoke, so the Jedi landed on one of the Bridge City's spaceports. Moving towards the Great Vaults, the Jedi stopped in their tracks by Maul. The Zabrak had been searching for Grievous Mark II, or any remnant of the Separatist hierarchy, and when he saw the Jedi, he wanted to know where his other target was located, who was Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Jedi refused to tell Maul, but instead asked for the location of Palpatine, and if the Zabrak had kidnapped him. The disappearance of the Sith Lord was news to Maul, and leaving the stunned Jedi behind, Maul left for his ship. As the Jedi tracked Maul, the Zabrak was fixated on Sidious, who he knew was headed for Dathomir, and had trapped him into going in the wrong direction. So it was a rather tense Maul who arrived on Dathomir, and landing beside the Night Sister village, he saw Towsing calmly staring into a crystal ball, and with Maul's arrival, it was time to fight. As soon as this was declared, a Providence-class dreadnought loomed overhead, and the red mist turned to green as the Night Sister spirits were unleashed. Preparing their assortment of weapons, a squadron of droid gunships hissed when they landed in the jungle, then the battle begun. The Night Sister and Night Brother warriors supported the spirits to attack the droids, whilst Towsing formed a shield around the Dathomirians to protect them from harm, as Maul and Grievous lured out Palpatine and Grievous Mark II. The Sith Lord and his newest cyborg were a symbol of confidence, as Sidious declared that he would put them in their place. Maul and Grievous continued to stall for time, as Ventress snuck into Palpatine's shuttle and obtained a hair sample to take back to Towsing for a ritual. Upon a Dathomirian battle cry, Maul and Grievous ignited their lightsabers, and moving back towards the Night Sister village, Sidious's right knee suddenly collapsed, as Towsing used their voodoo doll, but this pain only infuriated the Sith, and lifting both of his opponents into the air, he repeatedly slammed them to the floor. This forced Towsing to stop her ritual, and pass the job onto the old Daka, and creating a sword from the Night Sister magic, she engaged with Sidious, but it seemed the Sith Lord was enjoying the fight. Just as hope looked lost, reinforcements arrived in the form of Jedi, after being alerted by Anakin Skywalker. The sight of Palpatine shedding his veneer of a benevolent old man, and turning into an evil Sith, fueled the pride of the Jedi, and the shame of being deceived. The Sith was forced to fight with unrivaled speed, with Masters and Knights almost throwing themselves to defeat him, and he asked Anakin to help him as his friend. The distraction of the Jedi allowed Towsing to return to her ritual, and continuously stabbing the doll in different areas, Sidious let out a last mighty roar, with Maul in his proximity. The incredible roar of Sidious's attack was felt by the entire planet, and everyone in the vicinity was annihilated, apart from one. Through the layers of ashes and dust, a metallic claw grabbed the air with futility before clambering to the surface. General Grievous looked at the scattered bodies, and in particular the remains of his successor, then clambered towards the closest ship. Using the tools on board to repair the broken components, Grievous left Dathomir and travelled to the world of Kaleesh. Thanks to his ties with the IGBC, his home planet had recovered from their war, and with his work complete, it was time to become a Kaleesh again.